Hello and welcome to Give and Take, the virtues in life. And today's topic is super happy body coach. And we have a wonderful guest who will introduce herself and let us know all about that fantastic topic. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Cicely. I'm so excited to be here.
Good.
And have met some of your beautiful other staff in this place. I am so many things, but currently I am a professor of health, even though I am actually a professor of film. So I am a super happy body coach, and for many, many years I have taught people to come back into their health after disease or after depression or after suicide attempts. And now I focus on women over 50, women in the second half of life who want to come back into life and bring their incredible knowledge and experience into the world, but their body is failing them. And I teach you how to get back into your body, creating a new body using food, that's Johanna's Raw Foods, and other modalities to come back into a body that you can literally reshape at any age.
Okay, wonderful. So I gather your name is Johanna.
Oh, my name is Johanna Sophia.
It's okay. So lovely. So where do you want to start?
Anywhere you want. We can start
Well, let's talk about since you're going, let's talk about the book that you have written, the name of it, and if you just want to hold it up to this camera, yes.
It is Freedom Fun Genius, and this is a book that I started writing right after I had undertaken a trip with my children all around the US of A.
Nice.
And I was asked to write for a local paper and for an international educational online journal about this trip. And on this trip, we are learning how to learn. And we also have two troubled teens with us. Two of these children are my children. I don't know whether you can see that. These two are mine.
Okay.
And these two were what I called troubled teens who came to me to learn how to have a healthier lifestyle.
Oh, good.
And the girl in particular had just survived her 7th suicide attempt and needed and was severely anorexic, needed a completely new start on life. And this is now 12 years ago. And today she is the happy mother of a son and is living healthily ever after.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really a nice story. So where would one be able to get that book from, Johanna?
Currently from johannasrawfoods.com on my website.
Right.
And we're just about finally setting it up on Amazon.
Excellent, excellent. So, you know what, I'll take this time now to look at this clip of some sharing that you were doing. I think it was a lecture, so we'll look at that now.
Welcome. Easy. Why does it have to be easy? It has to be easy because we all have incredibly busy lives, right? We have work to do, we have kids to attend to, we have political activities to attend to, and it needs to be easy. It cannot be complicated that we go out and have to seek 10 ingredients that you can only get at this Asian store and only get at that health food store, etc. So it has to be easy for you, and also we are very patterned in our behavior. You may have noticed that when you grow up, your mother makes certain foods, your family has certain rituals, and these rituals stay in our brain like a grid. And whenever we feel vulnerable, and often exactly at the times where we should be eating healthier, that grid comes back in because we're like, ah, I got to do something for myself, but I really crave that donut right now, or I really want to have that apple pie. And we're very patterned in that manner, or that hot dog, or that sauerbraten, or that whatever it is that made you feel comfortable growing up is what we crave, because it settles us, it makes us feel at home on planet Earth, and we're going to talk more about planet Earth.
Great, wonderful. I'm glad you mentioned that in regards to the patterns and behaviors that we've developed through nurture or nature. And I remember a situation I was in because I have a plant-based diet. And, you know, went to some family members, and they were very offended that I would not eat the food. But it's like they don't understand. This is a decision that I've made, and I've made a commitment in regards to my practice. And so I was not going to do that. And so we just had to take a little break from each other, because they just didn't understand that I was not going to eat any meat or chicken or whatever it is that they wanted me to eat. It was not going to happen. So that made me, it reminded me of that. And so just talk a little bit about how we get in these patterns, and like the, you know, the donut and all that, which it's no interest of me, but share.
Right, and what comes with these patterns, and it's actually a very simple neurological fact. I've spoken just recently again, because I was creating a school for children with certain challenges. How incredibly deep those patterns are. They can physically be seen in your brain when you do a brain scan, or also in carcasses. We can see how the brain is patterned. And when we change that, the pattern literally physically changes. Now you can imagine how hard it is to change that pattern, and that's why I maintain, when we know we should be going to a better pattern, keep the pattern, just change the ingredients. Keep the burger, just make it out of plant food.
Oh, I like that.
Keep the donut, just make it out of, I mean, I make raw donuts, believe it or not. Make it out of seeds and nuts and plant foods and fruits, etc. And spices, and the cinnamon tastes the same on a plant-based donut, or on a, well, old donuts and some of sweets where I grew up in Europe are often made with lard. So, you know, you have pig fat in there in your baked goods. I just came across somebody was sending out a super delicious, supposedly, recipe of ginger snaps made with lard. And I was saying, oh, that stuff is still around.
Lard is still around. Oh, my goodness.
So when that pattern is there, I am suggesting I will help you switch the ingredients, but allow you to keep your culture, so that it's not so harsh a transition.
And so that's what I've done. I've switched the ingredients. I still have my burger, I still have my pizza, but the ingredients have been changed. And so I could still enjoy myself and have a good meal. And when people eat it, they're like, wow, this is really tasty. So it's like, it's just a whole mindset changing. I like how you change it's saying, look, you can still do this, but just change the ingredients and still enjoy everything to the fullest. And then it becomes a change of mindset.
Well, and it goes beyond that, because now you're actually going to enjoy it more. Because you don't feel, sluggish and terrible. You know, oh my God, I ate too much, and oh, now I need to lie down. But you can have a full meal of healthy, in my case, raw food or vegan food, you know, and feel energized and happy and like, let's go dancing, kind of. Whereas if you eat the equivalent in heavy animal products with a lot of fat, etc., and fried stuff, you will, and white sugars for dessert, you will feel exhausted
Right.
because your body literally is exhausted after intaking so much food that it doesn't really have the tools to digest.
Right. So, talking about too much food because the body cannot digest. So, how do you know when it's too much food? I mean, even if you might have just eaten a big meal and then you're hungry again. So, what's going on there?
To me, that's very logical. When you eat food that is not very dense in nutrition, and white sugar, for example, is
Right.
not dense in nutrition. White flour, white rice, white, etc., breads, etc. And similar, well, let's just stay there for a minute. So we eat all these calories, but they're void of nutrients. And our body says, yeah, it's too much, but I'm still hungry because I still didn't get my vitamins and my minerals and my vitality.
Right. So you're saying it's the wrong foods. So what if it's the right foods?
But, you know, I often challenge people. They say, I make a raw chocolate cake, for example, or
Right.
I make raw truffles. And then they say, you know, but if I bought this, I would eat the whole cake or I would eat the whole box of truffles. And I say, here, try.
Right.
And I challenge people to, eat the whole box. I want to watch you. And they eat half the box and they say, oh, this is so dense, I can't eat anymore.
Right.
And that literally is what happens. I mean, I can eat more than my fill if I spread it out and I have a raw appetizer, maybe stuffed mushrooms, and I have a pizza. I make these beautiful raw pizzas. I don't have a whole one. I just, a few slices is more than enough.
Right.
And then I take a little break and then I have a piece of chocolate cake or maybe a fruit mousse. I make these mango mousses and stuff. Then I have eaten so much that I'm saying, wow. And then I literally don't feel like eating for 5-6 hours. I just can't eat anything else because I'm so full, but good. I can still go walking and dancing and
So you've gone out, and I've seen some of your videos, and you've gone out and you've educated. That was one in regards to educating the public and also advocating and saying, look at what you're doing to the planet, as you ended here saying about the environment and the world. So just just talk a little bit about that.
yeah, trying to make it short. If 50% of the world population would go plant-based or majority plant-based, we
Okay.
would solve almost all the environmental problems we have just now. Not only would we not contaminate our own body and need all sorts of medication, but just think about it. We grow acres and acres of where there used to be forests, where there used to be the best jungles of the world in the Amazon, etc. You know, we're cutting that down in order to grow feed for animals that live in factory farms. And how we grow that food is we use GMO seeds. We spray that seed with a lot of toxic chemicals that pollute the rivers and the oceans, and then we feed that to the animals, and then we also, because those animals are so sick, need to feed them pharmaceuticals. The majority of drugs actually is fed to animals, not to humans. And you know how many drugs are taken, pharmaceutical drugs are taken by humans. So imagine that times 10 is what we feed the animals that we then eat. And a lot of those chemicals go through the body of the animal and come back out in their excrement and further pollute our waters, our drinking water. In addition, when we eat plant-based, we use less than 1/10 of drinking water than we use when we eat meat or dairy. Because all this preparation, of course, needs water at every level of preparation.
Right.
The animals, then the packaging. And then we get to the plastics. The plastic packaging we need for shipping meat, and then it needs to be frozen, it needs to be contained, and it goes bad. And we ship it back and forth to China to get cut up in China and come back and be packaged here. We do crazy things. So transportation and all of that. So we would save so much in resources that alone, you know, these days when people say, well, what can I do? Climate change, you know, there's nothing I can do, little me. Yes, you can. Just go plant-based or majority plant-based, and you've already saved the planet.
Right. Someone was asking me the other day about the dairy, why I don't use dairy. And I said, to be honest with you, from when I was a little girl, the body rejected it. And I've shared this story before in one of my other interviews, that how the teachers would force me to drink it, and because they didn't know any different, so I'm not blaming or saying anything in regards to that. They were doing what they thought was good. That's what they were taught. That milk was good.
Every child.
And and I just would throw it up. It just would not stay down. So from an early age, I knew it was something that was not good for me. So I'm just going back to where I should be, and I feel much better for it. And recently I had I went to India and I had a full blood analysis done and all that, you know, lab work. And I had another one since I came back. And the doctor said it was the best lab work they've seen. They said they wish that they would see, you know, they wish they could see that in many people. And it's because it's a choice I made. Even when I went back to India and I was showing the homeopathic doctor my lab work, and he says, oh, you're not eating any, no cheese. I said, no cheese. He could tell. So it's good. It's good that there's a difference being seen in regards to that. And because it affects many things in the body. So that's just me, and it's a choice that I've made. And I'm grateful that I made that choice.
But it's not just you. And the evidence, and there's hundreds and hundreds of studies that have been done that show the human body is not equipped to drink mother's milk beyond the age of 7. So when a child is 7 years old and the teeth are in the process of changing, in many languages, the first teeth are called the milk teeth. So a baby of any mammal is equipped chemically, biochemically in their stomach to digest mother's milk, and it needs the mother's milk between age 0 and 7. After that, with the change of teeth, the biochemistry in our body changes, and we cannot digest our own mother's milk properly anymore. Now, what in the world makes us think we can digest another species' animal? A species that grows to full size in a year. A species that has 4 stomachs. We have 1, et cetera, et cetera. The makeup is very different. We cannot digest it, and it causes endless inflammatory situations.
That I definitely know in regards to that. And so it's, and you know, everyone has to make their choices. And so this is informative, it's educational, so that people can see, okay, so maybe that's why I'm not feeling well, maybe that's why I have to take medication. So this is what it's for. And I was sharing with someone recently, I said I'm going to have a guest come on my show that will talk about, because they're looking to go plant-based. And I said, oh, well, once it's done, I'll share it with you so you can see. So people are being more aware and enlightened in regards to these things. And so what these kinds of forums does is support how they're feeling, and it helps them to make some decisions. Because people are lost, they don't know what they do, they're getting all this information.
Well,
and like, but.
Yeah, and that's human culture. It's culture. Many years ago, in a very different arena, when I grew up, we lived in a place where there was coal mining. My father built a house there. where on every little fruit in our backyard there was a layer of soot.
Yeah.
And it was considered normal because this was coal mining country. And the men all had black lung from the
Yes.
coal dust. And it was normal for the black lung people to die in their 50s. And it was normal to live in this environment with polluted drinking water, and the rivers were dead because there was so much soot and chemicals from the mining industry and from the steel industry that is nearby in the rivers. Today, we find all of that quite bizarre, that humans believed it was the only way to have industry, doing coal and steel in that manner.
Right.
So as we evolve, we understand that many of the cultural choices that we have made were not exactly helpful to our health. And that is so true in so many things. I often say to people, we're not the first ones who are doing things to our body that is very counterproductive. Think of the Chinese tying their little girls' feet. Think of the Romans eating from lead and drinking out of lead goblets. Enormous amounts of lead, having a life expectancy of 35 average. They thought that was normal.
It was cultural norms at the time.
It's always cultural norms because we're the only creature, as far as I know, who create our habits and rituals and the way we build our life. So we are therefore now, as we become more conscious, responsible for our well-being or not. And we can live longer than 35 and longer than 55 and longer than 85. And there are actually humans on this planet right now who live on average to 120. We don't like to talk about them because it sort of makes our modern medicine look not so good. But yes. So I think it's a cultural thing, and therefore, of course, it takes time to understand that it's not your fault that you didn't know. And it's not your fault that your mother and grandmother told you that milk is the best thing to drink. But we're learning and we're evolving, and we're no longer eating lead, and we're no longer tying our feet, and we're no longer having slaves, and we're no longer doing all these things that are detrimental to our well-being as human beings. So we're coming into our super happy body.
Right, very nice. So you also you've lectured in colleges and universities, and that's why you're also a professor.
Yes, in a different field, however. I have, I suppose, two official professions, if you will, although, of course, Johanna's Raw Foods is very official as well. It's a publicly registered company. It's actually Johanna's Raw Foods, PBC, Public Benefit Corporation.
Okay.
But my profession is in that arena. I'm a professor of film, writing, directing, and producing. I did 3 theses at Columbia University and have taught at the School of Visual Arts at Yale University and other universities as an adjunct as well.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
So, yeah.
So multi-talented.
Yeah, and then education. And this is very much also about education, since we're talking about, to me, and maybe this is a good way to end, is the greatest job on the planet is to be a parent. And to get that to the next level of bringing our children into a world that they can confidently turn into a better place.
So they are raised on plant-based diets?
Yes.
Okay.
I was never fanatic. So a little bit of egg here and a little bit of fish there was never a big problem.
Right.
But yes, 95% plant-based.
So how do you think that it has, when you see them in regards to other children, how do you see the differences between them and other children?
They're just not sick, and they're very
That's
confident.
what I wanted to hear, right?
Yeah, they're just really, they're hardly ever, yeah, they're just not sick. And they've had their natural childhood diseases so mild that we hardly notice them. They've had measles, and they've had whooping cough, and they've had rubella, and they had chickenpox when they were in high school.
I had that, yeah.
I mean, while it wasn't pretty, it was certainly, we laughed a lot.
Right. I got all the, well, not all of those, but I've got some. And what I didn't get, I was exposed to. So what happened was I gained my own immunity. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm okay in regards to that. So it's good because I wanted you to share so that parents who are thinking, I know some people who are raising their children vegan, and I'm glad that their doctors are not interfering with them in regards to that. So, and they see the difference, how the children are developing and they're not sick and having to run them to the hospital and all that. I don't ever hear anything about them being sick. So it's another way to prevent all these things that happen from an early age, to give them a great foundation.
Yeah.
So what would you say to parents who were thinking about that? What would you tell them?
I'll teach you how to do it. It's not that hard. It really isn't. It can be easy, it can be fun, and it can be very, very rewarding. Mine are both honors student at college, and they love their life, they love learning, and they have big plans.
Excellent, good.
Yeah.
So you've given them a great foundation to carry with them. And what it also, there's another aspect that it also affects the mind when you don't have a very good diet. Yes, exactly. And
clarity.
So, clarity. That's what I was just going to say, clarity. And so it makes the mind more clear, focused, more concentrated. And that's one of the reasons why, too, that I decided to and things have been much clearer. I don't get so foggy and confused and all this stuff going on. It's more connected, more concentration, because I believe that that's a part of why some children in schools, they can't concentrate because they've got all this other, yes, it's just too much. And so I definitely would advocate for something like that. And I've done that in the past in schools I used to work. I would tell the parents to look at the child's nutrition. Why you want to give a drug? Look at another way. So we really have to educate. And so I'm glad that you've done that, Johanna, and I appreciate that you have come and shared some of the great things that you're doing and continue to do, right?
Yeah, we're like really close, kids and I.
Yes, yes, great. All right, so I am going to thank you again, Johanna, and this will be great to share with the viewers and beyond, because people are looking for alternatives. So this is a great foundation for them. So thank you. So to the wonderful viewers, your level of consciousness is the gateway to the future. Thank you.